Welcome to the Economic Times Back to Business. News, analysis, and opinion on constructive policy-level solutions to the post-COVID challenges facing Indian business. The Economic Times is partnered with Google, Automation Anywhere, and the Union Bank of India. Thank you for joining us. Please extend a warm welcome to our eminent panel.
Welcome to this webinar, and I'm joined by this absolutely stellar panel today. And I think we are going to talk about the future consumer looked at from today's perspective. And I think obviously this is a subject that I think has engaged all of us. I think for the last 4 months, I think this is the one subject that I think has, that we are all seized of. And I think we have, I think, truly a remarkable panel. I think we have, let me just begin by introducing this panel. We have Sanjeev Mehta, who's Chairman and MD, Hindustan Unilever. And obviously, Sanjeev sits at a vantage point where he has this excellent grasp of the everyday pulse of the consumers. And I think we'll be speaking to him about that. We have Martin Schwenk from Mercedes, who's MD and CEO of Mercedes-Benz India. And no one better to talk to us about the changing meaning of luxury and what aspiration might look like in today's times. We have C.K. Venkatraman, who's MD Titan, and has, again, this position where both through watches and I think more importantly, perhaps through jewelry, which becomes almost like, as a cultural product in India, says so much about attitudes and about hopes for the future, meaning of prosperity. So I think we will speak to him about that. And finally, we have Sanjay Gupta, who's country head and VP, Google India, who's the one person I think who knows all of what all of us are thinking. So I think, we will be sort of tapping into his insights about what is the state of the consumer mindset in the country today. So welcome all of you to this conversation. I think, forecasting the future is always a precarious enterprise. And I think if you look back in time and look at all the predictions that were made in the past about the times that we live in, most of them were hopelessly wrong. But just as difficult as it is to predict the future, I think at this time, I think it is particularly important that we make an attempt to do so. And thanks to the fact that we have this wonderfully diverse group here, I think we are perhaps in a better position to do so than most others. So let me begin. While we will talk about the future going forward, let me begin actually by talking a little bit and casting our minds back to the last 4 months. Sanjeev, if I may begin with you, if we were to look at the last 4 months and we were to look at it from the from the eyes of a consumer, what would you describe is the journey that consumers would have gone through in this kind of tumultuous period where so many unexpected things happened at the same time? What is the kind of journey that consumers would have gone through and where are they at today?
Yeah, hi Santosh and hi viewers. Thank you very much for inviting me. If we have to look at it from the lens of the consumer and what have they gone through in the last 4 months, and in many ways they're still going through it, I think first and foremost is the fear factor. Yeah, let's not play it down because people are worried and different people are worried for different things. There are people worried about their lives, people are worried about their jobs, people are worried about their wealth eroding. But I think the most important bit is about the health. The second important bit is, like I have been in my home now since the 17th of March. So what we call as the COVID cocooning or home cocooning. Yeah, you're locked up at home and it's a very different feel. While we are still running the business, it is not like stepping out and even something which was as mundane as the delight of driving down to work seems like such a strange phenomenon now. Yeah. The third, of course, is the obsession with clean. Rightfully so. As a consumer goods company, Santosh, we used to invest in market development, crores of rupees every year, teaching the people to inculcate the right hygiene habits. But I think the world has now conspired to ensure that people take those habits up, and whether it is washing your hands, whether it is cleaning the surfaces, cleaning the veggies and fruits that come your way, this has again become like an obsession. The fourth, I would say, is the contactless culture. As human beings, and certainly Asians, we like hugging, meeting, and at the minimum shaking hands. But now we are in a zone where you don't want to touch any human being. You want to maintain your safe distance of 6 feet. The other important bit, which would be more applicable for nearly 75-80% of our Indian countrymen, is value seeking. As people get worried about the future, they become more value seeking in everything, not just about instead of going in for a E-class, they go in for a C-class of Martin's car. But even from our packs, they go in for a lower unit price packs, etc. The other important bit is everything. It stands out today. Whether it is education, whether it is shopping, whether it is entertainment, your life revolves around everything. The other important bit I would also raise is the protection. Protecting your family. And here I'm not just talking about your physical aspect of protection, but your holistic, your mental wellness. That has become a big issue. And all this stems, also we have to look at it from another dimension, that your life has got interrupted. It is not the way it ought to be, not the way it used to be. So there is disrupted, it's interrupted, and people are still coming to grip with it. No one thought that this is how the world would turn out to be. Even as early March, I don't think anyone thought that 4 months later, we would still be in a state where getting out of your homes, there would be a fear factor. So these are some of the very clear discernible trends, not necessarily applicable to everyone, but broadly applicable to most people in our country, I would say.
Well, Martin, I think Sanjeev also mentioned the fact that, that people kind of trading down from E class to C class. But if I just kind of pull back a little and talk about, how you've seen, in the last 4 months, particularly because I think particularly in the auto sector, things weren't too rosy before COVID also. So, there was already, I think, some sort of an apprehension perhaps in the consumer mind even then. So, keeping that in mind, what has the journey been like for consumers in the last 4 months?
Well, for us, I think we had all big expectations also for this year. After we had the Auto Expo, for example, in February, and I was just thinking when Sanjeev was talking, I did give a lot of interviews in February. It would never have come to my mind that we will be in this status we are at the moment. I got questions about how is the world developing, what's happening in China, and will there be an impact on India? And I said, well, let's see. There might be a demand impact, there might be a supply impact, but nobody would have seen what is coming there next. So if I take it from there, I think we were hopeful and we thought, okay, let's get the transition from BS4 to BS6 behind us, and then we come very strong back. We all know now in the meantime that with the lockdowns coming in around the 20th of March, the world was very different. And I think the impact specifically here on us in India is very heavy. We had a couple of months where we basically couldn't sell any vehicle or very limited amount of cars. And I think you will appreciate and understand that the customers, their first and foremost concern is exactly what we just heard from Sanjeev. It is about safety, security, and for a lot of our customers, it's also about how do I operate my business. A lot of them are business people. They worried about their families. They worried about their employees. They're worried about the viability of their financial existence to some extent. And I think that has caused a lot of, how can I say, hesitation. And it will take some time, in my belief, to really go back from that scenario to something which was there before. So I would think our broader base of customers will recover, will come back, but I can also understand that their first and foremost concern is about getting their private life organized, getting their businesses set up, and withstand the current storm. So that is really what I see is happening. And I can talk about what we try to do, but that is maybe going a little bit further. So it is at the end an environment which makes us to adjust and to see how we can then come back to some level of normalcy. I think what we all are looking for is to get some level of stability again. For businesses itself, it's very difficult to run in some kind of on-off mode. So we definitely need some of that. We have learned how to deal with the crisis, and now we need to learn how to deal with the existence of the virus for an extended period of time.
Yeah, Venki, I mean, have you seen anything, move in between the 4 months at the beginning, say, of the pandemic, a certain kind of a mindset? Over these 4 months, have you seen any changes, any kind of, are people settling down a little? Is there a greater kind of a sense of resuming a slightly more normal kind of a view of our life after having kind of freezing in panic perhaps in the first few weeks? Do you at all see any change over this period?
Of course, and I'm sure we can hear more from Google on aspect, but we have for certain seen more and more activity also in the online space, where, I mean, all major manufacturers, all companies would actually go into also to be where the customers are at the moment, and they cannot be in the showrooms, so they're in front of their screens and devices. So we have all put a lot of effort in, and I can clearly say it has paid off to some extent, because the customers really, or the general public also needs to move on. And after the initial shock, then the question is how to move on. And I can clearly see that some confidence has been achieved, and we see also some, how can I say, growing back of business. We have seen that we had customers who would do online booking of vehicles, and I say here top luxury models, which we thought at the beginning maybe it's not even possible to sell these cars online. So we saw that we can get traction in that field, and we could see over the last couple of weeks that from online and to the first opening of stores again, we could also see some positive momentum coming back. But I still think it's too early to really see how long it will take us to really get back to some kind of normal. I would think the trend is positive. We, as I said already, we adjust to the situation. The customers and consumers adjust to the situation, and we also long for a change. And really, I think that's also human nature. We want to come back and grow back, and I have seen a lot of that spirit. Let me start with my own employees. I've seen a lot of that spirit. Let's do it. Let's move on. I've seen it with our dealers, and I've seen it with the customers. So it's coming, I would think.
Right. If I can come to you, Venki. I mean, if I was to ask you a similar question in terms of any change that you might have seen over this period, and also if from the perspective of, say, watches versus jewelry, I mean, is there a similarity? Are there any differences in the way that consumers are kind of beginning to either thaw or change their kind of attitude towards consumption at all?
Yeah. On the first one, Santosh, we are clearly seeing improvement in small towns, medium-sized cities, certainly because of the level of COVID and maybe even the makeup of the people. I think maybe people in the city have become more worried a lot in general. And that's just a sweeping statement I'm making, but I'm making on the basis of what I'm hearing all around in any case. So the improvement has been there, rising in the upcountry markets. But cities are still yo-yoing. For example, Bangalore went through a lockdown just 10 days back.
Right.
It looked like, we had managed it very well and all that. And there is so much of sharing that is happening today through, WhatsApp and all that. So there is a certain increasing worry, anxiety, which still keeps people at home. And a lot of companies have determined that, we should all work from home. And that sort of, in a way, defines the new life, I think. Whereas, for example, I'm from my office, I'm speaking from my office, and even in Bangalore, which is used to be a good place till not too long back, we were one of the few companies working from office. So there is a general sense of let's wait it out. Coming to the watch versus jewelry point, The fortunate thing about jewelry is that in India, it's a store of value. It's also very good investment at the moment because of the rising price of gold. And whenever things get too stressed around, whether it's an economic crisis or any other crisis, gold and jewelry tend to benefit. And I'm sure that's something that's helping us, the category as well. The other thing is we probably are one of the biggest loyalty-based companies in the country. We have 20 million customers with whom we are in direct touch. And we have been in direct touch. In fact, every day there is a Zoom call with 20, 30 customers happening by different groups of people across the country. Okay. And trying to understand what people are thinking, how they are feeling, and how I can reach out. And the safety protocols that we have put in place are, certainly perceived to be a gold standard. And that's also pulling people in, because the demand is one part, but the fear of shopping is the other. And many of our categories are not so easily shopped online because of the price, because of the variety that you need to look at and all that. So we're certainly seeing a better recovery in jewelry than watches, but it's quite logical from the category point of view. Yes.
Sanjay, so again, like I said, you have the perspective of what people are really thinking, and I think when they're worried, when they have questions, when they have doubts, I mean, you are the first port of call. So I mean, what have you seen, in terms of the shift? Has there been a shift? I mean, over the last 4 months, are we moving towards a less anxious and a less fearful kind of a mindset, or has it just, have the fears kind of migrated from one subject to the other?
Yeah. So first, thank you, Santosh, and thank you for inviting me here. Delighted to be here. Before I just begin and comment on that, I must tell you, I joined Google just before the pandemic hit us. So I joined Google in January. So I was, so to say, born during COVID times in Google. And one of the big things I think it has shown me personally is how little I know about business and work is the one proof point, at least, of this pandemic. Till growing up for the last few decades, working in different companies, the assumption of what is work and what is home was very well defined and etched out in my mind. I think all those assumptions have been blown to pieces. I used to believe that traveling is critical to really get work done. And I used to take a flight a week at least, if not more, for the last decade. I haven't stepped out of my main door for the last 4 months. And the work is running well. Actually, maybe I'm overworked, I would say, and a lot of people in different companies I see are working even harder. But the reality is almost every work is happening, which is you're meeting different people, big deals are happening, work is moving as is. So I think personally, I feel there has been a big challenging of assumptions of every kind from a business and what is the concept of a work and a home both. Coming to a specific question on consumer, and I agree with all the stuff that has been said by Sanjeev and Martin and Venkat. I think the interesting thing I feel building on those is, one, I've seen a massive adoption of digital and technology at an unprecedented level in the country. So I feel we have squeezed in last 4 months more than 4 years of change already. And this change is still happening. So it's as massive as that. So I think people are now on their mobile phones leveraging, I think the time that they're spending, if you just look at the Nielsen data, every day on a smartphone, people are spending, if I remember the data right from Nielsen, close to 4 hours a day. It used to be around few years back, less than 2 hours. So it's massive shift has happened. And equally, if I look at businesses, and small businesses I talk about, large businesses I think people have talked about, they've adopted the change so much more dramatically. Even small stores have used photos to pick up, or WhatsApp or Google My Business to show what product they have to show to their customer, and use some of the actually APIs to connect, let's say, with a company like Swiggy to do their delivery. So I think fundamental shifts in adoption of technology. And I feel in some way, people have moved from incremental changes, in my mind, when I look at how they're behaving and their outcome. The fear is there, and fear is leading to many actions because people are fearful of coronavirus. So we had more than, I think, huge amount of queries on people asking for corona and impact on it. But equally, the searches for, let's say, something like life insurance has gone up dramatically. And so has where people are becoming very experimentative to look at what is the new language that you can learn. So 6x increase in the number of languages they want to learn. So fundamentally, there's a fearfulness and almost a contra view that I see just in how people are looking at things is openness to change or openness to experiment. And that's in every part. Food that they eat, things that they learn, languages that they want to pursue, the products that they want to buy. So I think there's a massive to these different forces working together, to be honest, Santosh.
Right. Sanjeev, I mean, coming to the future and our kind, the take on the future, I mean, there is one view that says that, what happens at a time like this is that because everything changes in the short run, one tends to overestimate the change in the long run, to say, okay, everything is going to change because, right now everybody is changing. So you kind of extrapolate that onto the future. And there is the other view, which is saying that, no, this is genuinely a transformational kind of an event and will change things significantly going forward. So, I mean, there are both views. What do you see as the kind of arc of change, the trajectory of change going forward? What are the kind of things that will change? What might just go back to the way they were? And where do you see change really kind of pan out? How do you see it pan out?
There are both the statements in fact are true, because there will be some things which will fundamentally change. Just like Sanjay was mentioning, the adoption of technology is no going back because it's convenient, it makes immense sense, but there'll be many things where people will revert back to their old lifestyle. When China opened, there were queues outside the restaurants. It is not that people are not going to step out. They are indeed going to step out. Yeah, but till a vaccine is developed, the fear of the virus is going to remain. Yeah, let's be very clear. Yeah, even when you hear a few number of deaths happening, that does put a huge amount of fear inside you. The other is, if I look at it from a lens of brands, I think this is also a moment where purposeful brands will stand out. Yeah, and they will get, I believe, embedded in the memory of consumers much more than what they would otherwise be. And say similarly, when you look at this entire focus towards hygiene and wellness or immunity, when people realize that it's good for you, yeah, you're not going to go back. Maybe the obsessiveness of using sanitizers will go away, but washing your hands multiple times a day with the humble soap and water, that's bound to remain. The focus on boosting your immunity. If you feel good about it, after you have done your workout, if after you have eaten the right kind of food, I think those are the things that are bound to remain. But very importantly, what will happen a few months, few quarters from now, would also depend on the trajectory of the virus, the number of deaths that happen in the country, and very importantly, what happens to the economy.
Right. I just want to, Sanjeev, talk to you a little bit about, you talked about purposeful brands and the reason, why, they will be kind of, looked for much more going forward. What would you say about the reasons that would account for this kind of a shift that you see?
Because a purposeful brand goes beyond the functional benefits. Yeah, they traverse the mind of the consumer. They traverse the emotions of the consumer. And that is where you would realize that this brand stands for much more than a simple functional benefit. That where functional benefit would become par for the course in most categories.
So Venki, if I was to just, there are some, in fact, who argued the fact that at a time like this, the immediate instinct is in fact to look for utility and shrink into a form of function. At the same time, it's clearly also an emotionally kind of a vulnerable moment. So how do you see this kind of play out in terms of, do you also see that, we'll be moving towards a more meaningful form of consumption where the idea of purpose will become more central? How do you see this?
That particular thing is a little difficult to actually estimate, Sanjay, even though we are hearing a lot of conversation about, cutting down, simplifying life, but I somehow feel that it's a lot to do with the constrained circumstances that each of us is living under at the moment. And I somehow feel that the minute that changes and we get out back into the world a year from now, or whenever we feel safe to, that may not be such a long-standing thing. But there are two things which I feel clearer about. One is, I think this entire working from home, I think that is a permanent change that I am seeing. For example, we were not at all thinking seriously about working from home 7-8 months back when there were employee requests about it, okay? Thinking that it's not possible for a company like us to do that. But the 4 months have taught us totally otherwise. And we've become totally open to a hybrid working from home, working from office situation because of a combination of reasons which all of us know what the benefits are. But what are the impact of that? The impact of that today, for example, and I work from home sometimes, I come here sometimes, right? The impact of that is people are getting more and more used to showing themselves in t-shirts on camera, which they may never have imagined doing so earlier. They're getting comfortable showing, and they're comfortable seeing others showing themselves like that. And starting to appreciate that actually it is what you do, what you deliver that finally matters, not all this superficial stuff like how you dress and stuff like that. Now, this is while we may still graduate to a more elegant t-shirt, for example, because not all of us may have enough elegant t-shirts for a show like this, like Sanjay has. But therefore, the market for formal office wear, I would wonder, I feel that it would reduce. So we are, the vocabulary that we are now starting to use is about the keyboard dressing. Okay, so how can we design the outfits from waist up? So the jewelry designers are working on, pendants and earrings for people to sort of wear and sit in front of the laptop at home and start working. Therefore, the companies which will succeed most are those which understand these nuances. Like I'm told that the premium casual segment in the apparel industry is seeing a big, significant pickup because of, in a way, what I'm describing, that people are now wearing shorts, but maybe SEVC kind of t-shirt, but I want some good collection of smart t-shirts so that I can be really presentable, but at the same time, I'm comfortable and cool. So that's one thing that I think is forever. Whereas the socializing, which is totally off now, and I'm sure after some months when the world is defined to be better, we'll come out with masks and maybe invite people home, but small intimate gatherings with masks. And therefore the market for dressing up products will be under stress for maybe a year. Now companies which can actually help people reimagining a Zoom birthday party, where today you may not be that particular about dressing up for a Zoom birthday party, but can we encourage people? So it's a global Zoom birthday party. Can you dress up for that party instead of wearing your pajamas and like even our own Zoom parties, Santosh?
Yes.
Which we do pretty often. Like how do we, okay, we are friends, so it's different. But a social gathering, it may be nice to wear a nice necklace, wear your best sari, put on your perfume, and actually feel good also, because it does make you feel good. So marketers, which in a way help people reimagine this new world, will succeed better than those who are saying, oh God, now I can't handle it or whatever.
Sanjay, if you were to sort of look at just some key kind of themes going forward, saying that and you were talking to say a group of marketers saying what should they be thinking about from the sense that you get from having this kind of a vantage point, what are the kind of areas marketers should be looking at? What are the signs you are receiving saying that going out, these are the kind of things that I think marketers should think hard about? What would you say?
Yeah, I think looking at just the signal that I see in the business from a consumer perspective and from businesses as well. One is the two things which people are deeply concerned about is health. And the second thing is money. Cash is a really big issue that people have said they should use wisely. But the reverse of that, as I said, is people are trying new things, both in terms of openness to change. So just the signal that we see, the dishwasher sales have boomed dramatically. So number of queries on dishwasher is 6 times what it used to be. Chairs, ergonomic chairs. Venkat talked about what they wear, but how you sit, where you sit. It's really important that you are able to sit. You never design your home for sitting for 8-10 hours continuously. Today you need to sit on those chairs, and you realize that it is not enough. So standing desks to be sitting on, ergonomic chairs. Third, you're not stepping out for eating food, but restaurant style food eating is important. So when you talk to retail chains and you look at searches, pizza sauces, baking dishes, 6 times, 7 times, 10 times the queries that are happening. Beauty at home. I think all of us have clean shaven, but people who have beard, they want to trim their beard. So how do you use products? Because you do want to look good. You do want to feel good. You do want to ensure that you're comfortable. Only I think the change is that you may not spend on travel as much. You may not spend on hospitality like hotel, but you do want to. So I do think the openness to spend or change is as high. But where it is going is more purposefully towards things which are more material to you today. And I think other interesting thing, which is really big from a digital point of view, I feel, is gaming. So people are spending a lot of time. Earlier, we used to say only global games in India being consumed. Now you see that people are also going to what they find more comfortable, what they have, because I think across generations, you're sitting at home and spending time together in some way. So Ludo King has become one of the biggest games in the country. Rummy Circle. So these games were small and almost insignificant. But the reality is this is what binds the families together. And people are spending time, to be honest, across generations together. So some of the themes which work across generations are also finding a lot of traction. So I think, so it's a very unique phenomena, and a lot of things that Sanjeev and Venkat both said. I think some things will go back to normal, but I also feel in my own view, I used to look at life when it started 4 months back at pre-COVID, with COVID and post-COVID era. Personally, now I look at life and say there's a pre-COVID era and there's a with COVID era. I don't think I'm looking at post at all. I think the consumers and society is now getting ready to live with COVID in some way.
Martin, one of the questions, of course, that, and one of the things that I think, a lot of what has been said, I think has some implications for how the meaning of luxury will change, because there is a view that will say that, there is a certain, simplification and going back and saying, oh, we can make do with frugal lifestyles, and we made do with, not going out with just a very, very kind of, paltry kind of a wardrobe of 4 t-shirts that, you recirculate over and over again. And having got used to this, you perhaps will go through a more frugal time. There is another view which says that actually the human need for luxury is not going to change. And if anything, being cooped up like this and being denied like this, there is going to be a rebound effect where we will seek perhaps meaningful luxury, perhaps selectively so, but that there will in fact be a renewed demand for luxury, maybe in newer forms. What is your take on this?
Well, I would start where the colleagues just ended. I think there is several elements that will happen. On the one hand, some things will further accelerate, and that is what we spoke already about, say, take all digital, all the world's digital. That's digital sales, that's digital being online, that's games, everything. So we had a very good position as a society, I would say, when this crisis hit, because there was a lot of groundwork and that would accelerate now. When we look at many things that come back on this side, I'm very convinced that on luxury people will come back. The Indians are very much value-based, They appreciate their brands, They love, also when I talk of our brand, I can clearly say there's a lot of love for Mercedes. And I have seen already that this will not get lost, So it will come back and it will just find different ways to access. So whilst in the past it really was only brick and mortar, in the last couple of months a lot of it got more digital, and we will have to make sure that we meet the customers, the people where they are, and I'm very convinced that luxury will have a play in the future as well. You spoke already about the need. Yes, luxury, it's hard to say you need that. but the want will not go away. And that's the want which we spoke about, the want to visit a restaurant, the want to travel locally, domestically, internationally, and the want to own a luxury car. I don't see this will go away. It will obviously take a little bit time to get to where it was before and further develop. But overall, I think the luxury trend itself is not about to change.
Right. I think that almost everybody has spoken about the growth of digital and the fact that it has become such an important part of our lives. So Sanjeev, but if you were to look at, say, the deeper implications, I mean, what does this really mean, and what are the kind of implications going forward? Say, does it mean in terms of retail? What are the what are the longer term ramifications of this move, of this increasing kind of embrace of the digital?
Sure. I'll just talk about it from two lenses. One is from the country lens, and then I'll come to the retail. I think just like during the beginning of the millennium, the Y2K crisis gave a significant impetus to the IT industry in the country. I think this is a fabulous moment for the country to go up the value chain. It's an amazing opportunity. And if we can, as a nation, service all our customers globally brilliantly during the crisis, especially when they're working from home, that would be a huge mark of credibility to the Indian IT industry, and then they need to leapfrog up the value chain. Talking about retail, Santosh, there are two trends which stand out. One is e-commerce, the other is what I call as the renaissance of the humble grocer. The renaissance of the humble grocer because of the proximity.
Right.
But let's bring these two together. In India, in our trade, there are about 10 million stores. And if you do a simple math, that means 100 million people. The food on the dining table is brought by this chain, the channel, distributed trade, the grocers and all. Now, look at a scenario that as a country, we need them to survive and thrive. If we can connect the stores and bring the science of retailing to them, they will not only be able to survive, but they will be able to thrive. And there are many things that could be done once you get the stores connected. You could customize the assortment. Your ability to create demand in the neighborhood would go up significantly. Your ability to fulfill the demand with speed and accuracy would go up by leaps and bounds. So you're talking about a scenario where you would virtually have 10 million fulfillment centers dotted across the landscape of the country. So it could be, like we always say that in India, we have not moved up to the modern trade. In fact, this could bypass that. And we may not have a big modern trade in the country. There would be a highly connected small format stores across the length. That is the kind of vision we need to create and implement with technology for this channel.
Venki, I mean, Titan is as much a retail company as it is as a sort of a consumer company in a sense. So how do you see, in a larger sense also, not just through the lens of retail, what has been the impact, of the digital on your business, and how do you see that sort of endure going forward? How do you see the impact of it going forward?
Certainly, there has been a significant leapfrogging of many of the concepts in what I would call digital retail starting to happen. Things which were, green shoots a while back are suddenly starting to appear reasonably mainstream, maybe in a year or two kind of thing, because of the exponential rate at which adoption is happening and even execution is happening from the company. So whether it is demonstrating an expensive necklace through a video to a customer, and the customer getting a good picture of that through the video, and in a way taking a chance, placing the order and having a 15 lakh, 20 lakh piece arriving at home without having touched it, felt it, but discovering that it is perfect after it arrives. So two things have happened. One is the company has leapfrogged, in a way, sort of debunked some of the myths that it had itself, saying, no, this can't be done through video. Nobody will buy. So that's overcoming of a certain constraint in our minds. And that lady on the other side, never imagined she would do that. But she has tried it and it has worked for the first time. And she has sort of broken through that barrier. So like that, whether it is try at home or pick, order online, pick from store, or video demonstration, or endless aisle. So multiple aspects of omni-channel, we are seeing huge leapfrogging in the divisions, and the teams are pushing that because of the situation. And wherever demand is, and in a way, the supply is also creating the demand, catalyzing the demand, if you will, and people are overcoming their barriers because of it turning out to be okay. So I think it's in a way, a very good place to be in, because this would not have happened in normal times. And by the time we finally recover, I don't exactly know when that is, but we are still gunning for Q4 of FY21. We should sort of be back to normal. That's a kind of resoluteness with which we are pursuing, but clearly an exciting, intervention that has happened, the positive sides of something like this.
Sanjay, recently, I was exposed to some, I think, the work that Google had done, mapping out differences between the older, digital users and the newer kind of earlier, sort of more recent adopters of the internet. When you look at the more recent, and you look at expanding the base of digital users, what is your sense about their attitudes, and how would this period have kind of worked for them?
So I think first, just building on the point that Sanjeev made before I jump onto your question I see India as a country, though the short-term challenges are very high. And I think the two factors which are working for India is that we are a low internet penetration country, around 33% internet penetration, and very high informal sector, 90% plus is informal sector. And I think rapid digitization is happening. It'll only accelerate. So I do think India will become a much stronger digital economy. I do see that over the next 5 to 7 years, it should be $1 trillion. And I think that's going to happen sooner than later. In the next 6 to 9 months, we will see basically things changing very dramatically. So we are very optimistic about India and the opportunity that India presents. And I think, building on your question, I think the interesting thing we find is that the people are adopting digital in a way that fundamentally we didn't expect that they would adopt and leverage. And I think the interesting example to look at is during pandemic times, look at the way UPI transactions are happening, which is using mobile to pay. Now that's supposed to be much down the ladder kind of an activity. You learn to search, you learn to see a video, and you learn to basically figure out. We had 1.34 billion transactions in the month of June this year. And last year, similar time, it's almost 80-90% higher than that. So you can see, and this is a shift in last 3-4 months. People are seeing even new users who are coming in, and people are getting access to quality in a manner like compared to earlier. Apollo 24/7 launched a new service on health, basically teleconsultation, telemedicine. Now that is getting to be using 10,000 doctors with people from different towns and cities, accessing the best doctors in Mumbai or Delhi or different parts of the country. Now that's pretty unique. Third, I think I had never thought things like ordering cars, and I think Martin talked about Mercedes. I was talking to Hyundai. They have sold in the month of June. They got 20,000 inquiries on the mobile phones, and they sold 2,000 cars. People have bought cars on a mobile phone. And I think this is happening in a bigger way, to be honest, as you go down the tier 2, tier 3 cities. So it's not a phenomenon which is happening only in tier 1 town. So if at all, I feel that the new users are embracing this technology with less fear and more openness. And hence, they're willing to go the whole way. So personally, I feel the new world is around where access to quality has suddenly gone up dramatically for every user in the country, be it education, be it health, be it any services or product that people want to access. And new brands can come in and build businesses, because suddenly the distribution channels have changed. How you deliver to consumers have changed. And that will free up and bring, I think, new activities, new products, new services. So I see a very thriving Indian economy after the initial hiccup over the next 6 to 9 months, where consumers will adopt digital and technology massively and will really participate and accelerate the shift.
Sanjeev, let me come to one interesting aspect of because of this radical change, and you also, for instance, mentioned that you haven't stepped out of home since the 19th of March or whatever. Is the organization? I mean, how do you as leaders of large organizations with a diverse kind of a set of people, how does this new experience, what does it augur for the future of the organization? That does it have implications in terms of how organizations will see themselves or organize themselves going forward?
Okay, let me talk about the good things again, which we need to take forward. Yeah, is first thing that stands out very clearly is the need for speed and agility. Yeah, the second important bit is resilience. Now, when we talk about resilience, we must understand there is a bit of contradiction when it comes between resilience and efficiency. If you're super efficient, then you will not have the kind of resilience you need to cope with, for instance, the demand for sanitizer going up 100x. Yeah, you won't be able to cater to that. But you would have to build in a certain element of resilience in your system. Work from home, I don't think it means writing an obituary or working from office. Yeah, it won't happen. But I'm absolutely with Venkat when he says that it would be a hybrid model because this would be proven and there would be many jobs which could best be done from home. But remember also that human beings are social animals. Yeah, not everyone has a big house. Not everyone has a study from where they can work. So people do need to step out and do need to go to work just for the kind of ambience you create. But I think what really stands out during these kind of crises is the leadership. Yeah, the leadership that is displayed. And one important bit about leadership is that you need to have what I call as a brutal optimism. Yeah, when I talk about brutal, I talk about being frank of the challenges ahead. And optimism means a credible hope and a strategy that you would be able to get out of it. But what also stands very clearly during this time are the traits you require of leaders during these kind of situations, where people have to be calm, where people have to be willing to delegate to the edge, where people have to be willing to wear two lenses, a microscope with intense magnification and a telescope to still scan the environment, because I'm absolutely certain that we'll come out of this as humankind come out of this crisis, and very importantly, demonstrate humanity, kindness, and compassion. Yeah, so those are the traits which I believe are being demonstrated in much more measure than before. Those are the things which we definitely as an organization need to carry forward.
Venki, I mean, any sort of, I think Sanjeev has actually covered, I think a lot of ground there. Anything to add? And also, I would also sort of perhaps broaden the question a little to say that one is the implications on the organization, but also implications on the idea of work. What we think of as work, because what has happened in this period is that what we used to call the work-life balance has now become a work-life kind of a symphony of some kind, where both are so intertwined that it's sometimes difficult to extricate one from the other. So does the idea of the organization and the idea of work itself change, or is this just a response to a specific situation?
I'm not sure about that particular thing, but just going back to the earlier point about the organization. I think what has clearly happened is the respect for each other's time has substantially increased. The manner in which we are organizing ourselves around work, decision making has substantially improved. So you start meetings on time, you don't interrupt people because most of the time you're keeping yourself on mute, and therefore you don't interject, and therefore you're starting to learn to listen more, and you're ending up completing your meetings on time and also taking those decisions for which you came into the meeting in the first place on time. So there is a substantive increase in the overall management of inter-team, interpersonal, relation. And I think that is because of many months of being at it in a particular, like we start sharp at 5, like we are ending this at 4, and I've got something sitting at 4:05. It's like that. And I'm sure you'll do it, I mean, complete it like that. I'm not giving a hint, but I'm just saying, right? But that's a very, very important thing I'm perceiving that, is happening all around us.
Right. So, Martin, what is the way, even now, it's not as if we know how this is going to, end or how this is going to pan out. We still live in a state of uncertainty. So how do organizations think and plan about the future at a time like this? What is the way that, for instance, Mercedes, I mean, how is it sort of keeping a track? How is it building scenarios? What is it doing in order to have a good sense of what the future might look like?
Well, that's a very difficult question because it's very broad. But obviously, the one thing is you look into how other countries are developing. That's something you can do. You can look into what is the forecast on GDP, on the economics. Yeah, so we certainly do that. And then we look into what can we do here domestically in order to chart a path which brings us back on track. And I think that's the one which is the closest you can then do. We always live a lot around of our products. Yeah? So obviously our products carry a lot of the brand and a lot of the emotions. So for us, it became very early clear that we should further set on our products and essentially remain on track with the assumption that, and we heard that already earlier in the panel discussions, we all believe that the midterm, long-term development of India will be very strong. So we all stay on track with our product plannings and we just try to find our path around that. And then what you have to do is you have to think of trying to understand what the customer wants. Yeah, so that we already mentioned, that's on the one hand digitization, but that's on the other hand having a safe environment that is then for the sales experience, it's for the customer service and after sales, where you have to think. And then you have to think of the worries the customers have, and there you are on financial questions. So we try to pan out a full set of financial suite, which we call a wish box, in order to help to take some of the churn out. So clearly, we used massively the time during the lockdown to think of how shall we set ourselves up as a company, but also as an organization, and how do we manage in the future. So a lot of it also is related then to leadership. It's also related on relationships and how do we organize physical presence and virtual presence. So all of that bringing together, I would think we have set out quite a comprehensive project actually in order to chart our way into the future.
Sanjay, I mean, it's, the fact of the matter is that virtually nobody saw this coming. I mean, it's difficult to have seen it coming, admittedly. But on the other hand, you can argue that there have been other pandemics. There was SARS, there was MERS. So it's not as if it is entirely unexpected. I mean, this was a potential threat that loomed large, and yet it seems that most, not just businesses, societies, politicians, everyone has been caught unawares. Is there a learning in it for the future, or are these kind of events impossible to predict? Or is there a way of thinking about the future or planning about the future that we can learn from here?
I think it's a very, very good question that you raised, that fundamentally nobody saw it coming, because nobody saw it, even when I can tell you honestly, in the month of Feb, when we knew the COVID was moving out of China decisively into many countries. I don't think, at least I think most of the people that I talked to saw that this is the scale of what will happen. I think it is for the first time potentially. The world is experiencing, everybody in the world is experiencing the same challenge at the same time at this scale. So this is unprecedented. And I think both from a business point of view or people point of view, this is something which is for the first time. But I think it sends a very good message to me, to all of us. I think there is so much that you can learn if you're more open and curious and agile to learn. And I think one of the things which is really critical in my mind for the organization of tomorrow is how curious and how agile they are from a future perspective, and how open they are to the changes which are happening around. And I think, to be honest, we took a lot of things for granted. and assume that this will neither not happen or not happen to us was the assumption that we all lived in. So I think it's a big shift. And another big shift, just building on that high C, is that what this has proven is that in a lot of ways, society was built on the idea, if you look at many parts of the world, that if you are okay, life is good. Whereas what this has shown, that until unless you are not okay, I am not okay. So I think everybody has to be good for the whole of world to be good. You can't be isolated alone. And I think one of the big themes that this is pushing, I feel, in the world to be reconsidered is equality, is giving, is ensuring that every part of society is really impacted in a positive manner by businesses and by people both. And to me, that's one dimension which I think is the good part of it. And that's a change that you see in many parts of the world, including some of the issues that happened in America on Black Lives Matter. I think is really pushing the questions around saying every life matters in the world. And how do you question and how do you make the society a more equitable place? So I think it's fueling a big debate and a very meaningful debate, I believe, both in businesses and society at large.
Right. So let me end, by asking all of you the same question, and I think we will end by 4, Venki. So I don't think you need to be worried about the next appointment, which is that if you had to just look at the 1 or 2 big learnings that you would like to share, whether as organizationally or whether as a leader individually, that I think these last 4 months have kind of implanted in you. What would be the 1 or 2 big learnings, Sanjeev? If I begin with you.
I'll just continue from where Sanjay left. I think it is right to say that this was not a black swan event. And as I think it was Thomas Friedman who talked about, this is more like a stampede of black elephants. And, it was the UN chief who had very clearly articulated that Inger Anderson, that there's never been more opportunity for pathogens to travel from animals to humans as they exist today. But whether it was misplaced optimism or denial, we never wanted to take it seriously. Look at this event and just focus on, if we keep giving lip service to climate, it could turn out to be much worse than this pandemic, where cities would be washed away. And many kind of devastations would happen of a much severe nature than even this pandemic. So I think those are the kind of lessons we as a society need to imbibe. And absolutely, as Sanjay said, we can't be living in a world where I'm a firm believer of capitalism. But I also firmly believe that the inherent vice of capitalism is the unequal sharing of blessings. And as they say, that the inherent virtue of socialism is the equal sharing of miseries. And here we are, where the poor people are facing the brunt of what has happened. Whether it is social chaos, whether it is climate change, whether it is inequity in the world. If we don't resolve it, we could end up with many more such crises. That's the learning we need as humanity to take forward to make our world a much better place.
Martin, what would you say are the 1 or 2 big learnings?
Maybe on a personal level, for me, it is good to see what is possible if we all put together. And there, I really want to go back also to the work from home. I would never have thought, even though we had policies in place, I would never have thought that it's so efficiently possible. That's and the whole digitization around that. That's for me a big learning. What is possible. But more on a society level, I think for me very obvious is that collaboration is much stronger than building barriers. We see that all over the world. We need to work together, and a barrier will not stop a pandemic. And what will stop situations like that is if we are able to collaborate. And there I would, as a member also, which is obviously not Indian by native, so I would really want to make a point here that it also has an international component. It is necessary that we work together as societies in the smaller circle, but also in the bigger circle. And at the end, we spoke a lot about digitization. It's the human touch that matters. And that is what we need all to keep up at the end, the human touch will last much longer than any bytes and bits that go through the orbit here.
Thank you.
I recollect, Santosh, what you said in a conference some 10 years back, that marketers often forget that consumers are people first before they became consumers. I don't know if you recollect that, but you said it in Jaipur many, many years back. And, I'm seeing this more and more often in every conversation we are having with consumers as people, because we are a retailing company with direct contact with millions of consumers. One of the underlying, desires today is to feel joy. Everyone is wishing for a moment of joy. They're all under pressure of some kind or the other, okay? And companies which can provide that joy and help people sitting inside their home to sort of liberate themselves from this mind state that they have reached, those companies will do better than other companies which don't do that. And therefore, it is a reinforcing of this, of deep understanding of consumers and consumers as people before you start segmenting them and asking them questions about what you will buy and stuff like that. What are you feeling? What are your values? What are your innermost fears? When you start understanding that, you develop a strategy, a solution which finally connect you with them.
Sanjay, I'll let you have the last word on this.
Yeah, thanks, Santosh. Fascinating discussion. And I would say I'm an optimist by nature. And I think amongst all these pandemic and challenges, one thing which my belief is strengthened is possibilities and optimism, even for the future. And I do think one of the things as a company that we want to do is to say, how do you deploy technology that we deeply aware of and learn for social good? And hence fundamentally focus on, in our minds, very deeply on agriculture in India. Really say, what can we do where we can deploy AI? Because 50% of people employed, 15% of GDP, we believe giving and ensuring that as Sanjeev said, the poorest have been hit the hardest. So how do we ensure that we do something which is more meaningful so it makes a lasting impact on society for a long, long time to come?
Thank you. Thank you. I must thank you all for a truly insightful, thoughtful and sensitive conversation. I'm sure that those who tune in will find it of enormous value. Thank you so much. I'm not going to summarize this. I'm just simply it's getting to be 4 o'clock. So I'm simply going to say thank you so much for this conversation and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. And let me start by introducing all the panelists here. So, Rasool said eclectic mix, and I would say very well thought about, very well thought through mix of panelists which ET has brought together. And from the online world, offline retail world, from the technology side of it, from the brand side of it. So let me start by introducing Arvind Mediratha, who is the MD and CEO of Metro Cash and Carry. And previous to that, he has worked with Walmart as well, with Yum Foods and Procter & Gamble. So he is a seasoned Indian professional who, from consumer space, moved into retailing, organized retail, and worked with largest multinationals in India. And he has seen it grow from absolute zero to the levels where we are today. So we definitely have some views from that side of the world, which is inside-outside view, from a multinational point, but an Indian professional talking about the retail and technology's role in that. Then we have Siddharth Bindra, who is the founder and MD of Viva Apparel. All of us know it's a women's wear brand and homegrown brand over the last 25, 30 years, the way this business has built from the time when I have seen it grow from absolute scratch, when ready-made women's wear was definitely not even thought as a category, because Indian women always were supposed to be the ones who buy fabric, go to the tailors, get it made, until recently. But Viva Apparel, Siddharth and his team and a few other companies, they have created this whole category in India, and how well they have created and how competed with the international brands. And in a way, they are the reason why Indian ethnic wear has moved from traditional to the modern seamlessly. And we'll talk with Siddharth about the consumer side of it, the brand side of it, and the role of technology on that. Then we have Kishore, who is coming from Kishore Thota, who's coming from Amazon, from consumer experience, direct-to-consumer experience there. Many years with Amazon, and while I'll be very keen to know, as all of you, about the experiences they have in India and what they have done in India, my more interest will be to know that what more they are possibly planning to do in India, because Amazon being the absolute leader in the e-commerce world globally, and we have seen that how they have fast-paced the growth of e-commerce in India, how they have pushed Indian companies to look more into e-commerce more seriously, and the use of technology, etc. What they do, we have a superficial view as consumer probably when we are dealing with them on a day-to-day basis. But most definitely today we'll take the opportunity to be behind the curtains at what all they have been doing there. And then we have Milan Shah, who is the Executive VP for Automation Anywhere. Absolute and thoroughly, I had a chat with him earlier, thoroughly from an automation AI world, and works not only with retail and consumer product companies, but all kinds of companies. And that's where when we were talking, I realized that there's so much more which is yet to happen in our world. And retail, when we talk about since 1996 or 7, when I have been associated, we've always been talking about organizing retailing, organizing consumer business in India. And in this last 25 years, we have come quite far. But when I compare it with some of the other industry, that how the artificial intelligence, robotics, and automation is changing things there, I think retail is still many miles to go. And I think that's where Milan's insights will be quite helpful when we get into this discussion. So let me start from the very front end of the business itself. Arvind, I'll start with you, and if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah.
So Arvind, so while our topic is the big leap and the role of tech in retail, enhancing experience on all of it, and I will take a little bit liberty here, say that role of technology in the retail and the consumer businesses itself, right? And there are many pieces to that. One piece is obviously the consumer end, second is the retail, and then third is the brand part of it, and then manufacturing and the supply chain, all of it, our vendors, our customers, everything put together. That's what creates the whole ecosystem. And you, not only from your Metro's point of view, but from your overall experience, right? You have seen that how the technology has moved into this, but specifically, I would like you to focus on this part, that how the Indian ecosystem, right? How technology has played the role, and how can it play the role in transforming the experience for everybody in the ecosystem, not only consumers.
Thank you, Harminder, and good afternoon to fellow panelists. Can you hear me loud and clear? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So I would like to first start by giving you an overview of the Indian retail market. According to us, and my fellow panelists may have a slightly different opinion on the numbers, but if I look at food and grocery, I would like to start with food and grocery, and then we can talk about general merchandise and other areas of retail. It's about $600 million in India, and 90% of that is unorganized. So when we talk about retail, we need to understand that 90% of the sector in food and grocery is still unorganized. When I say unorganized, I mean the traditional wholesale markets, which many of us are quite familiar with. And a large chunk of that is also the Kirana stores, the humble mom and pop neighborhood stores. There are 12 million of them. You talk to any food company, any FMCG company, if you look at their sales distribution strategy, it's not complete without looking at what to do with Kiranas. Because if you have to get your products available to the end customers, whether in urban or rural, you have to reach out to the Kiranas. Now, the e-commerce market, I know it's growing on a very small base. It's growing very rapidly. But the reality is, if I look at the AC Nielsen data for last year, and even if I look at the latest numbers which have come out, Kirana segment is still growing. So it's, in my mind, too early to write off the epitaph for the Kirana sector. There are 12 million of them. And I think when we talk about technology in the context of retail, especially in India, it has to take into account the unorganized sector, the so-called unorganized sector, which are these 12 million mom and pop stores in food and grocery. And our estimate is there are probably, if there is a one Kirana store, there are 3 other shops or 4 other shops selling other types of products. whether it's apparel, whether it's shoes, whether it's crockery, cutlery, small domestic appliances, etc. So the overall size of the total food and grocery market, 700 billion. If I add general merchandise, it probably could cross $1 trillion. And the number of small shopkeepers in the country are anywhere around 45 to 50 million, which is 4.5 to 5 crores. So that's a big number to look at. So technology must embrace the unorganized sector. So otherwise, we are not going to bring about a major transformation in the Indian context. And if I have time, I would like to say that we are partnering a lot with Kirana, especially in the cities where we operate. We obviously don't have any presence in the rural areas, helping them modernize and digitalize their businesses. And for them, it doesn't have to be very complicated technology. It could be simple technology which can convert these small mom and pop Kirana stores to start with into omni-channel players. So what they need is a simple app to order from people like us. They need a simple app for their customers to order from them. And they basically need the basic operating software to run their small mom and pop shop as efficiently as a modern retail chain. Whether it's Walmart, whether it's anybody else, why can't they run their store as efficiently as them? So basic modules around inventory management and some basic techniques around, if they capture the data for their customers, which is essentially email IDs and phone numbers, they can again use technology to do customized marketing. And we're seeing that a lot of the FMCG companies, a lot of suppliers are very interested in that kind of stuff. And you look at the entire ecosystem, which is where I think a lot of action is now happening in India, which is B2B2C. So you cannot just look at either B2C or just look at only B2B. If you want to be a dominant player in the Indian market, you have to look at the entire B2B2C ecosystem. And for us, it means from us to Kiranas and from Kiranas to their customers. Because our motto is they need to become more successful. They need to become more profitable. And we tell them that any other company, the parameters that they need to track are sales, especially like-for-like sales growth or comp sales growth, profitability, and finally the cash flows. Right. And I think if you have been to a neighborhood store, you will find that plenty of opportunity for them to improve in these areas. Right. So the focus for any company has to shift from just being a supplier of goods to helping them to become a complete solution provider so that they are more successful. Right. And that's where I think big companies are also realizing you cannot ignore the Kiranas in this country. You have to take them along. And I also would like to say from policymakers' standpoint that if you ignore the 1.2 crore Kiranas and other 3 crore other shopkeepers, tomorrow you will have big social unrest in the country if they suddenly get out of business. So that is something which policymakers have to keep in mind when they talk about the Indian retail sector. Right. So those are some of the thoughts I have, Arvinder. Thank you for.
I would like to stay on that, Arvind. We have the momentum. Your thought process is on. So this part is very clear that the Kiranas, I think pre-COVID also most of us who are in the business, we knew that what is the role of Kirana and how important they are to the ecosystem. But I think now in general, the country, the people who may not have interest in this sector also become aware of this, right? Not only as consumer, like you said, as policy makers, otherwise the observers or the media people, they become aware of this, that how important role the neighborhood Kirana stores play in this whole ecosystem. But just some details you can share with us that how you have been how you have been helping these people so far, let's say as Metro specifically, how you have been helping these Kiranas to use technology to become better, serve their customers better, manage their business better. Some specifics if you could share.
So for instance, during the lockdown phase, it was not physically possible for them to come and shop from the cash and carry stores or warehouses that we had, right? So they wanted access to an app through which they can order. And I know there are other players in that space, but they trust Metro because Metro has no ambition of competing with them for their end customers. Right. So we made available an e-commerce platform for them where they can order. They have visibility to the entire assortment prices, right? We can run customized promotions. And again, Kirana store is not just one homogeneous universe you're talking about. Right. Kirana store, if I look at Bangalore, in Whitefield is very different from a Kirana store in Malleshwaram. It's a hardcore, you will see a lot of people from Tamil Nadu origins staying there. But Whitefield is a lot of your young families, techies, etc., who would like a different assortment. So one is giving them access to your platform with prices, etc. Second thing is, working with them to do simple consumer promotions for their customers. Because suppose there is a mother who's buying diapers.
Right.
So the question is, can you use this data and do some cross promotions for that same customer and create other or sell other product categories like Johnson and Johnson products, for instance, or baby care soap, etc., or infant milk powder, etc. Similarly, if somebody is buying Whisper, what else can you sell to those customers? If somebody is buying only atta, why can't you sell them, for instance, rice and pulses or spices? So the obvious question is, where are they buying these other product categories from? So these are simple things which Kiranas intuitively understand. But if you arm them with technology and you arm them with basic, data analytics, it can make their life much better. And I must also say that it's not just only about technology. There's also a physical experience of shopping at retail. I have a very strong conviction that ultimately it's an omni-channel player who will probably emerge as a leader. That's why, companies have bought stake in brick and mortar retailers, and brick and mortar guys are getting into e-commerce. And, if you look at Kiranas, they have not really changed their shape and form for the last 50 years. It's like a normal dingy store. You don't like going there. You send your servant to buy something, or you place an order on the phone. What prevents somebody from converting them into independent supermarkets on the lines of 7-Eleven, which you see in Southeast Asia or Japan or US? So simple remodeling exercise, which doesn't take more than 24 hours to get completed. So these are some of the areas where we have partnered with them, and we have seen if you do that, their sales, which is their offtake to their end customers, goes up by 50-60%. And right now they are struggling to find a reliable partner who can teach them the basics of not just technology, but assortment, what to keep, what not to keep, simple things. They were not keeping frozen products. During the pandemic, because eating out has practically gone out of the window, a lot of people are buying frozen kebabs and French fries and other vegetarian products. And they typically tend to buy these either online, or they tend to buy these from big modern retail stores. Kirana's not even carrying them. Now you get a freezer organized for them, free of cost, or for a very nominal rental amount per month, and you help them stock the frozen range. You actually are able to grow their business by adding new categories to their product mix. So these are simple ways in which you can actually help Kiranas run their business more successfully. Even inventory management. All FMCG companies try to dump products upon them, right? Even if it doesn't sell. So they carry inventory sometimes for new products for 6 months, 8 months. My point is, if they can order online, why do they need to carry inventory for more than 15 days? But you go to any Kirana, anywhere in the country, they will have inventory not less than 6 to 8 weeks. And then if you help them with free cash flows, you can also help them get access to credit, loans to expand their business. So the sky's the limit.
Right, absolutely. Norvind, I think you pointed out very rightly. I think two things which I liked in that. One, so whenever we talk about technology, we believe that technology is all about digital technology and data only. While when you talk about refrigeration, which is a simple technology, but can change the whole business dynamics for the person, because the refrigeration as a technology has entered his retail store. Secondly, when you talk about that 24 hours taken to transform this thing, I know the QuickTile is the company which does that very quickly, converts the whole store into a modern looking store, which is a physical technology again, and changes the complete look and feel of the store. And
because you cover lighting, you look at fixtures that they need to have, how they display their pricing. Price sign, normally everything is sold at MRP. Retail is what? You buy stuff and you sell stuff. The question is, buy the right stuff at the right cost and sell it at the right price. Now, so technology is means to an end. If technology becomes your end goal, then we have a problem. That's what I would like to say.
So Kishore, like I said that we would like to look behind the curtains. We have you here, we have cornered you. So now as consumers, we see a lot of stuff you guys offer and a lot of stuff which you do to make our lives simpler and keep us conveniently at home when we are shopping for millions of products and getting them delivered, I think really rapidly, even in the lockdown time, and now even this time when things are still disturbed, doing all of that. So Kishore, what I wanted you to talk about, and you can add whatever you want to go beyond that, but the part is that how India, on a scale of, let's say if US is at 100 in terms of the application of technology in making consumer experience, the whole retail ecosystem better for your sellers, for your customers, for your suppliers, for your own people, all of that on a scale of 100. I'm not willing to take it that we are at 100. If Amazon US is 100, where are we? And what more is coming?
I actually struggle to say where we are behind, because one of the things that we have tried to do over here is embrace new technology trends, and it resonated a lot in terms of what Arvind said, in terms of it's not technology as a means to an end. And we don't really measure where are we by technology, but it's a universal platform that enables all the learning from various countries that Amazon operates to help India operate more efficiently. At the same time, there's a lot of learning on the ground that helps us embrace the existing solutions to provide more solutions to our customers that are in line with what is needed on the ground.
Right.
So one of the things that so there's no exact comparison, but I could hazard to say that we're not really much behind in terms of if that is the perception.
Right.
However, what I would like to call out a few things in terms of using technology is exactly a means to an end, but it really affects the bottom line and the on-ground activity that most of our partners have, both in terms of our customers as well as our seller partners.
Right.
So if you realize from the last few years, we have been in India for about 7 years now.
Right.
And one of the things that we learned in India very quickly was the adoption of mobile. As we started operating in India, the adoption of mobile was skyrocketing at the same time. Right. So
I'm happy to hear that,
yeah,
that there is no gap between Amazon US and India. I wouldn't have accepted it anything lesser, because I think we are as attractive a market for anybody. I'm very proud of that and very confident of that as well. Please.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of inventions that we do in India that get rolled out elsewhere as well. So being part of the larger organization and transferring those skills elsewhere so that they're used in other marketplaces is something that we are proud of. I wanted to call out a few things in terms of just our journey. It's been 7 years since we started operating in India. And as I was mentioning, the growth trajectory of mobile and how we were growing was at the same level. And we had to realize that we not only realized, but we had to solve those. So what we early on observed was most of our customers, including our sellers, more than 70% of our current sellers operate only on mobile. So we had to build a lot of features for our Indian sellers to be able to sell on mobile, everything end to end on mobile. So which was a very quick learning in terms of, we can call it technology, but it's the evolution of some of the technology trends that we had to embrace and adopt very quickly so that we can solve on-ground problems for our seller partners. Similarly, with customer solutions that we built on mobile are one of the indicators in terms of, we created this mobile first culture in India, which was all about building on mobile, right? So again, technology plays it's based on a very technology foundation, and it plays multiple roles across every single aspect of what we do, right? From our customer experience to seller experience, how we manage our fulfillment centers, how we manage our transportation and logistics. And we have seen, and all of those together, what they do is really provide a more efficient ecosystem to both our sellers and our partners, and actually cut out waste from the system so that we can be more efficient in how we run things, and the bottom line goes back to our sellers so that they can offer better prices to our customers. So in a way, it all connects back to the real things we care about, and it's not a technology per se as an AI or a mobile or a AR, VR, etc. But it has a real impact on real life.
Give us some example, easy to then comprehend.
Sure. So let me take a couple of examples on how. So one of the things in the last few years has been, our team has been focused on how the non-metro regions have been growing. So the tier 2, tier 3 towns are major contributors of new customers for us. So that growth rate significantly exceeds what we are seeing in metros. So the customers that come from there, as we research and find out some of the barriers to that, is there are 3 or 4 unique things that they would like. One is they prefer to interact in a language of their preference. Second is it's slightly different from, you can operate in English and go through a website, but if you are talking to, per se, a customer service agent, you'd like to be more articulate. So more than 50% of our calls today are from non-English speaking customers.
Right.
So we provided an English language. In addition to English language, we provided Hindi as well as an operating language. And that, very simply, the implementation of that could be, we take about 10,000 products or 40,000, 50,000, so tens of thousands of products to manually convert, right? But we have a platform of hundreds of millions of products listed on Amazon today, right? And if we wanted to match all of them and convert all of them into Hindi, it's not humanly possible, right? So that's where language tools like AI tools, machine language tools, machine learning tools really help us convert English into Hindi based on what humans input in the early on set of products that we choose to convert manually. There is something very directly related from there are a few other things in this cohort. They also told us we would like to interact in voice, because a lot of customers, if you have seen across the country, are bypassing the keyword to a certain extent and going directly to voice interactions. And you might have personally used it or might have seen it has no age barrier really, but everybody is feeling a lot more comfortable just using voice to ask the phone for things. And with Alexa, we have a good foundational technology that is continuously learning all the different dialects of how people say things, not just the accent and ways we say things. We use words differently in terms of show me my order is not necessarily always show me my order. It's like, where is my order? Is my order coming? There are so many ways that customers try to interact, and learning that across a large country like ours with various styles and accents is only possible through something that is learning all the time.
Right.
One more thing I wanted to give as an example of technology solving real problems in that is really connected to our day-to-day lives, right? During COVID, for example, the containment zones are not clearly identified today as a geographical boundaries. We have pin codes, then we have containment zones, right? A containment zone could be an apartment, and apartment on top, apartment at the bottom. So there are like 3 floors are containment zones. So there is no organized containment zone geographical setup that is created. However, when we are very conscious about the safety of our associates, safety of our customers, but we would like to be there because we have seen how much customers have really depended and put the responsibility on us to serve them during this period so that they can stay at home. Right. And we have seen rapid traction in our services like Pantry and Amazon Fresh, and all the other services have seen phenomenal impact in terms of what customers wanted to deliver to them. And for us, if we restrict it at a pin code level because we say that, hey, there is a containment zone, we cannot send it, that would basically block out the whole pin code, which is a very large area. So we used machine learning to figure out, based on some of the addresses, on-ground knowledge that we have, to figure out where could be that containment zone so that we can alert our associate as well as the customer to say, if you're in a containment zone, you're most likely in a containment zone. Right. You may want to come here to pick it up, and we would not be able to do something like a pay on delivery because that means you have to exchange cash and so on. So it helps us really keep our customers safe, associates safe, but still be able to deliver. Right. So there are so many such examples that are kind of inspiring as we learn every single day on how these problems can be solved.
No, absolutely. I think this example of containment zones, unless you wouldn't have mentioned it, till the time you mentioned, I wouldn't have thought of it as a problem even, forget about finding a solution for it, right? So fine, you guys are in business and then you have this technology, let's say, like you said, that base technology, right? Alexa is a great example that how all the information, even Alexa, which is being used for personal use, millions of Alexas are being used around the world and in India also. And then all that information and the learning is coming to Amazon platform to further, it's a self-fulfilling, it's a self-feeding kind of mechanism, which is fantastic, right? That like a lot of people, this morning I was joking at home that a lot of people say, switch the light off, not switch off the lights, right? So and I say it as simply in one of the shows, actually, I was seeing it, and this woman is a well-educated woman, right? She's a chef in a 5-star hotel. Obviously, she's coming from an English-speaking background, and she's saying, switch the light off. And that's a way of saying it. You can't say it wrong, but Alexa or a machine.
And we have something internally that we try to follow is, don't try to teach the customer how to work with Alexa. Alexa will learn. She will learn how to interact with the customer.
Right,
so that is a huge, powerful thing, because we can say it in this manner, then you need a manual, then the adoption goes down, and it's not as natural. Right. Here, Alexa will learn because she's continuously learning, and that will really help customers say however they want to say it, and we'll figure it out.
Right. I wish she was called Aishwarya though, but anyway. Siddharth, thanks Kishore, thanks a lot. Siddharth, coming to you, and the man who is dressing up all the Aishwaryas of this country. So Siddharth, you are obviously in one of the most interesting businesses, and everybody says that the consumer business, which is the as closest to the reality as it is, and consumer, they always say, is a queen. Your business anyway is for the queen. You can't even doubt that part. I think, Siddharth, you have to unmute yourself if you are saying something.
I think I'm unmuted.
Okay.
Can you?
No, I thought you were saying something. So Siddharth, so from a pure business point of view, from a brand's point of view, you are every day, every season, you are creating new products. Every day you are trying to best guess that what the consumer is looking for in the next season, what they will respond to, not respond to. So how in your business you have found that technology has helped you in the last few years, and how possibly it could have helped more and you expect it to help you more in the years to come? Very open question, Siddharth, leaving it to you to respond as you like.
Sure. Thanks,
Very
Arvind.
Open question.
And good afternoon to all the panelists and the viewers. I think these are extraordinary times, and after a black swan event that we are all witnessing, technology has really come to the fore. In my business, online is really the saving grace at this point, and we as a company actually adopted it 7 years back. So I think we are getting rewarded for that effort over the last 7 years.
Right.
So, technology for Biba, we are a fashion business and a very product-driven business. So technology is not at the core of our business, but it really helps us execute the business. Technology is a great enabler to really put together all the knowledge that is there in the business and help execute the business fast and seamlessly. And that's how I look at technology. We as a company don't create our own technology, but really partner with people in the market for the best products that there are to utilize it. Tech as a platform, it helps the company run. Today, big data, AI, all this has really changed the paradigm. It's really helping us tremendously from a business case on customer insights. Today one is able to track a consumer's journey seamlessly. One is able to create content for a consumer that is much more relevant to her. Today the attention span of a consumer is very little.
Right.
How to land your communication first time right and do it. So, if a consumer at Biba buys festive wear frequently, and I think every time a new festive range comes, we should be reaching out to that specific consumer or specific consumers across. And when you have 2 million consumers, you need technology and big data to really help do all that stuff. I'll give you another example. 5 years back, we used to have a physical footfall tracker with a guard in the store, and he used to count how many consumers come in the store.
Right.
There's a camera. The camera counts the consumers. It counts how much time the consumer spends in the store. It tells you exactly where the consumer is, what is the hot areas of the store, what is the cold areas of the store.
Right.
So much data that most of us can't utilize. So, that's just the way technology has changed things. It's definitely an enabler. One has to adopt it to really maximize business today. Today e-commerce is really one of the largest contributors to a fashion business.
Right.
Because the offline space will take some time to pick up. The non-stop lockdowns and openings and lockdowns is definitely not helping sentiment. But at least e-commerce is a consistent space.
Right.
The use of technology there is really ever abound. If one looks at today, when one visits a site, you're immediately shown products that are relevant to you. Your history has been captured, not just on your site, maybe on other sites, your entire behavior. And in that 30, 40 seconds, to really capture your attention. I mean, Amazon, of course, is phenomenal at it. And, that's the kind of technology that has come into the retail business.
Right.
We as a business, we also believe, that we would never be the best at technology. Always we'll adapt it, we'll utilize it, but it's very important to actually partner with the best also. And like us, we partner with Amazon in India, the other platforms. I mean, the technology experience that such platforms will provide will be unparalleled. And we continue to focus on our own products and brand. And I think a partnership of such things is really also the right way. And I think that goes across technology at the back end also.
Right. Yeah, Siddharth, rightly, let's say in the fashion business where, let's say again, going beyond the technology which moves information primarily, see, mass customization as a concept has been talked about for many, many years, but without the digital printing, that's just not possible to do that, right? Because the way the whole textile industry, the back end has been set up, it's only set up for homogenized mass-produced products, right? And then you, by cut and sew, you make different products out of it. But the digital printing and how its cost has been dropping dramatically. And it's not dropping dramatically just because of the innovations being done for digital printing only. There's lots of stuff which is going on at the back end, which is in general the technology enhancements which are happening, right? Whether it's on the ink technology, whether it's on the printing techniques, which are being used for general printing by the HPs and all of those people and how they're coming together. And I think some of the material science concepts, I was researching on this particular subject, we are just a peripheral, let's say, the industry which is getting advantage of a lot of technologies which are being developed for many other purposes, right? So I think somewhere, because this mass customization, I'm sure you also have been hearing about for many, many years to go, but some of the concepts which are being worked upon by some companies I'm aware of, this is going to become a reality, right? And that's where, even on the pure product businesses, I know you are one of the first ones to start using capillary technologies, and you have been, like you said, that you are putting effort in the last 7 years and gaining from it. But I think going forward, it's going to be enormous that the people like you who have open mind towards technology, even as a user, I think it's going to it's going to become a business advantage rather than only a business enabler. That's what my belief is. Definitely in the fashion industry. I don't know much about some of the other industries there.
No, Harminder, I completely agree with you. I mean, I'm told of people or companies that are actually designing ranges through technology.
Yes, crowdsourcing of design.
Actually,
first step.
Absolutely. Looking at the web and seeing what's selling and quickly turning it around and what's in fashion. I mean, we haven't been able to do that, but yes, one is able to, again, through big data, I think, imbibe a lot of information that is fed into designing and merchandising processes.
Right.
Yes, I think tomorrow a computer or a technology or some kind of technology would be able to help in assisting in very core functions like design and stuff like that also.
Right.
I think the whole, the event that we have seen, fashion brands are not going to be able to plan their ranges 12 months in advance anymore.
Yep.
Those kind of times are not going to be practical solutions.
Right.
And opportunity to again use technology to compress times, because technology brings in efficiency.
Right.
All of that, even the opportunity in the whole supply chain, which is very traditional at the moment.
Right.
But faster it adopts, the faster it will get.
Right. Great. Thanks, Siddharth. Thanks a lot. So Milan, I'll come to you. Milan, you'll have to unmute. So Milan, we are all from the retail consumer products, those backgrounds. And while I was talking to you, that's why I realized that you not only look into retail and consumer spaces, but many other industries also, and you have your experience and learning and the things which you do with all those industries. So I think in the short time what we have, and you heard all of us speak about that, I would like you to comment on this part again, on the state of technology usage in the retail industry, and how it can, the word which we have used, the big leap, how it can take that big leap to use it even more to become much better than what we are today.
So thanks, Arvinder, and good afternoon to all my colleagues on the call. I think Arvind touched on a very interesting term, so I'm going to pick from where Arvind and Siddharth and Kishore touched on.
Sure.
B2B to B2C. The second point Siddharth spoke about was supply chain efficiency, and then Kishore spoke about customer experience. So let me just kind of share what we are seeing outside in, and when we look at the global retailers, what's happening there. So the first one is in terms of that when we talk digital, I think everybody, I was listening keenly that we talked about digital only with respect to the consumer or customer, but the entire organization internally is still not digital. Mm-hmm. So if you are, and I have enough examples in pandemic, whether companies which have really delivered well were able to scale up their internal processes at a massive speed, not just the order taking, fulfillment, logistics, inventory, and the the non-glamorous part of retail, if I may say that. And that is where technology we built, which is robotics and AI, plays a big role.
Sorry.
A bot will continue to process orders once you have configured that and taught a bot, and bot will learn on its own and will deliver that. So I think that's already come into the country. Some of the retailers are using it, and I see that to Siddharth's point, it's not just efficiency, it also gives you more time to focus on what is more crucial, whether it's design, whether it is engagement. The second point is, Arvind spoke about B2B2C, right? So your ability to empower your distributors, your primary, secondary, tertiary play. And I'll bring in examples from insurance industry and a very diverse paints or a consumer durable industry. I think when they are planning distribution today, they are saying that, how can I help my distributor to manage inventory? How do I help my distributor's distributor to ship, to do a product mix? And how you use, so one of the famous examples I like to quote, which is again known in the Indian industry, is that one of the largest paint company, from the time you select a paint, there are 162 transactions which you make, from which bin you pick, how do you mix the color, how does it get shipped, and eventually it reaches an end consumer. 162 process steps.
Okay.
And we have built a bot which does the first 60, then a human intervention comes, and then a bot comes again and finishes it off. So I think it just that entire experience of bringing it is an interesting angle. The third piece is the technology as a differentiator. One of the leading insurance company in the country started during pandemic video calling or video medicals. Right now that was not offered by anybody. Everybody said that the medical will be done in a certain manner. So in our view, and how did they do that? Because what they did is that if you are Harminder is sending certain medical records, a bot picks up all of that, populates it, looks at your age, you're a smoker, non-smoker, based on what you've filled, and it essentially allows you to test those elements. And they launched it again, made a difference. So I think, Harminder, I know I have a limited time, but 2 points I would make. One is...
No, you don't have limited time. I said we all have just 1 hour. You have...
Okay. So I think the 2 points I'll like to make, Kishore touched on really interesting kind of use cases. One of my favorite use cases in India, it's used by one of the global retail giant, which has a very large capability center in Bangalore. And today, if you have visited a store once and you've just given your mobile number or left your coordinates with them, they are able to use social, and again there are privacy issues. So in certain parts of the world, privacy is very seen differently versus, let's say, in India. But assuming that privacy laws are being complied with, your ability to track the customer's journey, and I think Amazon's of the world does it really well, because from day one your interaction is technology led. But let's say
a metro, or I'm just taking metro as an example, but there are so many which have a physical touch point. How do you capture the journey and at various points in time prompt the customer and consumer to do variety of actions and series of steps? You give them omnichannel. I think I love that word which Arvind used, the omnichannel experience. And omnichannel doesn't even mean just voice. It is voice, chat, WhatsApp, SMS. And I just feel that somewhere insurance, banking industry has really moved fast, and all of us as consumers are using it, but probably that will be the same expectation the retail industry will have. Right. And the last point I would say is in terms of processes, and I know this is a very, very non-glamorous portion of any business, but the reality is that the competitive edge you get is, and I think if you really secret sauce in my view of Amazon or any other global e-commerce players, is the way moment an order lands, how do you internally manage it? And how do you internally digitize it? I think that's where the secret sauce is. And this applies from industry to industry. It's not just Amazon, whether you take it in one type of online retail to another type of online retail. So I think that's the other aspect which in Indian retail segment as a whole, worth thinking about and seeing that how do you digitize that and through that bring efficiency and effectiveness both in the way you interact with consumers.
Right. So, Milan, other than, let's say, the e-commerce obviously starts from technology, driven by technology, always about technology. But offline retailers, all this what you are saying is when you talk about the people who are in the paints industry, etc., all those things which they do in their processes and the automation and using bots they are doing, they're not e-commerce companies, right?
Correct.
But they are using all these tools, technologies to make themselves much better. Are Indian offline retailers even talking about that? Are they even thinking in that direction of a level of leaving the e-commerce aside? Leave the e-commerce aside.
So I think we have to address the elephant in the room, right? Which is that any offline company you go to, the first question is that what you have invested in, whether the stores, and I'm making this point very specifically that insurance today is reevaluating whether you need a branch in every part of the world and can you really do it virtually. Now in retail, you may not necessarily be able to take that decision, but who within that branch or that location should stay is a decision which one needs to make.
Right.
So your challenge is, in my view, we have quite a few retail customers in India. I mean, I'm not allowed to share their names publicly, but they are using it today on the basic transactions, your merchandising, supply chain, logistics coordination. Have they really gone to that consumer end? I would say still few steps to be taken.
Okay.
So if you are able to, because you can't go overnight digitize, Amazon's everything built, or Airbnb or Uber built everything digital day one. Now you can't build it digital day one. So what you have to do is you have to kind of fuse it with what you already have and see that what can you digitize with speed and with a lower cost, hopefully, so that you at least replicate the same experience for the supplier, merchandiser, or a consumer or whoever. So I would say, Harminder, the grocery retail as well as the fashion retail have gone into it. A lot of the other retail categories are still kind of wait and watch. All the global brands which operate out of India, incidentally, whether it's a fashion or apparel or any of that, I think they have been leveraging this relatively faster than somebody else.
Okay.
Minder, actually, I had a point to make on this.
No, please, Arvind.
Our experience has been that even when you are offering an e-commerce platform, customers exhibit hybrid behavior. There's some data which I saw only 2 days ago, which really shocked me. We opened an e-commerce platform that has led to a big jump in frequency of orders from Kiranas. But we also found that the walk-in customers, the same customers are also coming to the stores 30% more than what they were doing earlier.
Right.
Okay, so it's not that once you have an omni-channel platform, people stop coming. So despite the lockdown, despite containment zones, they're taking the trouble to come to the store. And we saw 30% jump in physical visits to the store, which is mind-boggling. Meaning, so it's not that once you have e-commerce. So that's my point, about omni-channel having a big difference. The second thing which I've seen is technology can also be used to improve your profitability. Nobody talked about profitability. For us, profitability is very important to run a sustainable business.
Right.
We have salespeople also in the organization, since we are dealing with, hotel, restaurants, kiranas.
Right.
Relationships matter. But typically we have seen that with salespeople, they tend to push products which are easy to sell.
Yes.
What we call KVIs, a certain product from Unilever or Nestle, Maggie, 5 rupee, or some pack of Britannia or whatever, oil, sugar. But when you leave the choice making to the customers, there's suddenly a big improvement in the product mix. That's a very big insight that we have got.
Right.
Because then they look at the entire assortment and they say, oh, I also should have this. You have a good deal on this. I should also take this. I should also take this.
Right.
So lines per order go up dramatically in online world versus when somebody comes and physically takes an order from you.
Right.
And the shift is more towards profitable SKUs,
right.
which improves the profitability.
Right.
So, we now can use technology. We talked about technology, but in our business, we can actually drill down to each customer. We have their purchase history for ever since we started the business.
Right.
And we can come down to the EBITDA by customer if you want to. So you can know how much profits you are generating from which customer.
Right.
Which is your most profitable customer and which are the least profitable customers. What's the difference in their buying patterns,
right.
and so on and so forth. Right. And customers that you cannot afford to, lose to anybody else.
Absolutely.
Because their profitability can be 10 times more than a customer who I say is a customer who's not shopping so often. That's what we call cherry pickers.
Right.
So, we have a metrics in our system called share a wallet. So share a wallet is the way forward when you're looking at in the B2B context.
Right.
Our total buying is 5 lakh rupees a month. How much of that buying is from you? And how much from the other guys? Right. And what are the articles that they're not buying from you and what they bought last time? Yes. So, it's a very interesting, data can make a big difference to your fortunes, even in terms of profitability from each customer. I'm talking now B2B context. I'm sure the B2C guys who have access to customer information online have similar data availability. Right. It's very interesting. We have taken some decisions around pricing, even delivery charges. We can customize it by customer basis their basket.
Right.
So data is very, very powerful in today's world.
Absolutely, absolutely. And while you're talking about data, interesting thing I remember, one of my retailer friends, basis data, they made the statement that their loyal customers account for 75% of their sale. While the question to be asked is that how much of their customers' consumption is coming out of their sales, right? Because those customers are shopping elsewhere as well. Yeah. And the moment we turned this question around, now there was no data, because how much those customers are actually shopping, you don't know. You only know how much they are shopping with you. And that's when a sample size was taken and these consumers were empaneled and for a year it was studied. Right? Over years, they realized that actually the share in their consumption is reducing because your merchandise mix is static. Your brand offer is static. Your locations are static. So the consumer, your channel is static because you are only available in the stores. You are not available online. So your share actually is decreasing while you continue to feel that this year 76% of my sales comes from those customers. It doesn't matter. It is not going to help you. Right? What a share you are getting out of their consumption is what's going to help you. So absolutely, yeah, because the moment the question was turned around, there was a need for data which came in, that we need to get the data. Only then we'll be able to analyze it. So absolutely valid point that once you have data or once you have need for data and then if you have the technology which can capture it for you and analyze it for you quickly, I think that's where the whole edge.
Convert data into insights, I think, is a key word. How do you convert that into insights which can help you?
Exactly.
Both in terms of driving loyalty and profitability.
Right. So in the last, I'll have a quick question which I'll ask each one of you. And I think that's the question which I had put in there to do with the environment as such. So as a marketer, as a consultant to the retail industry, consumer product industry, I've always been quite, let's say, split in my mind, right? Always have this dilemma that I care for the planet, I care for everything natural, but at the same time, I'm pushing people to consume more or pushing my clients to push consumers to consume more and more. So this, I think, and over years, I've always been tracking technologies, looking at technology, that how to make world, planet safer, how to do very, very, let's say, responsible consumption. So first, let me ask Kishore, Amazon, the big daddy of consumer, let's say the drive, right? I know that how much more I end up buying because I have access to Amazon for years now. So Kishore, how are you guys using, if you're using technology to make sure that we are making consumption much more responsible to keep our planet sustainable for next generations?
Absolutely. It's something that's very deeply ingrained and something the whole organization cares about. And we have done multiple pledges across the world in terms of our commitment to sustainability and just it's in terms of our commitment to Paris Climate Agreement, doing that much sooner than what was earlier signed up, completely becoming in India specifically. There is two areas that we are investing in terms of really helping the environment. Is one, in terms of the vehicles that are used, driving more and more electric vehicles into that mix of those vehicles that we use, as well as the packaging.
Right.
In packaging, we have done several initiatives that could, first thing in terms you asked, how does technology help? One was to figure out, as you can imagine, a customer might order 18 different things in one, and the other customer might order 5 things. And just systemically figuring out, based on the volume of these units and the kind of packaging that you need to go put in, what is the right overall box to put in them, put them in, right? Just figuring out a very simple thing, what size box not use other input mechanism, but simply tell the person who's putting these together, this is the best box to put.
Right.
That has given us significant improvement in terms of the packaging that we use, right? What we did was we completely eliminated single-use plastic out of our packaging. So it's all paper dunnage. If you were used to previous ones, there would be these nice small bubble packets that would come in, which is filled with air, that was serving as packaging for us. That's completely replaced with the kind of paper that can absorb that shock and provide you with the same kind of delivery experience that you get your products in the right shape. So there are many things along the way that help us drive, but the key thing I believe here is scale. The number of packets that we deliver and every small change we make can have a large impact. And the second thing, the benefit is not limited just to us in terms of what Amazon ships. Right. A lot of things are shipped by our sellers directly. We pick them up from our sellers in some instances, and some are shipped out of Amazon warehouses in various places across the country, right? So that's about 32 million cubic feet of space that is filled with packages that we get. So the impact directly on the packages that Amazon delivers, the ecosystem that we operate in, is promising for every, it has a multiplier effect in our opinion, in terms of how it can have a positive impact on the environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sure. And when you talk about the scale, I think the scale allows one to then put resources also into these kind of issues, which I think at a smaller scale business, even if the intent is there, I think it's not possible to put resources which you guys are able to put on issues like this. It's only possible because of scale, and that's one thing where I always say that the people who are larger, people who have the scale, they have the responsibility. Right, because only they can do it. Smaller ones, they can imagine, but they can think and they have the intent, but not possible to do. These are complex. They have been sold.
Under sellers.
Yeah, and sharing the knowledge which you are with your sellers.
Sharing the knowledge with our sellers, they don't have to worry about. They can just focus on the products they have been making, and we can make those investments.
Really, yeah. Siddharth, fashion industry, you know, that is one of the industries which is getting the flag for not being so environment friendly. And while our job is to keep people clothed in fashionable clothes every day, right? Lots of things these days are being given to either Ratan Tata, and old times they were always given to Mark Twain. If you wanted to impress somebody, say the Mark Twain said that. So I'm saying that Mark Twain said at one point of time, fashion is so bad that you have to change it every day, right? So I don't know whether he said it or not, but that's how it's been stated. So what Siddharth, what we are doing as a fashion industry or as a fashion brand, what are you doing on the environment side of it, using technology to make it better?
So yeah, I think the fashion industry, many companies and brands in the fashion industry have signed on a sustainability pledge that was last year. The Government of India as well as the United Nations and all of them. And there's a time-bound period during which all of us are meant to take action.
Right.
There's a full program around it. We as a company have also signed on to that.
Okay.
Sustainability to me personally is also very close. I do believe that a lot of the consumer perception will also change. I think there will be quality over quantity going forward, at least amongst the more affluent consumers, etc.
Right.
As a company, we've obviously broken the whole sustainability pledge across many verticals. Product, of course, is the large one.
Okay.
As mentioned, is another one. Store constructions is again a large one. And even just our whole office and everything everywhere that we use or consume energy or anything that pollutes.
Right.
So we have a complete 365-degree approach really to it.
Right.
Okay. In the next 12 to 18 months, we would have traveled a substantial journey on it.
Right.
It, of course, takes a little more time because
absolutely. I think every step is important and it's a journey for sure. So thanks, Siddharth. Arvind, specifically on this part, the way I wanted to ask this question to you was that we are using all this technology when you are, let's say, digitally connected with all your suppliers, digitally connected with all your customers, all your partners in the ecosystem. And on one side, product is moving in one direction, right? I think this whole circular economy, which we talk about, whether it's the packaging material, where is the product which is discarded or the product which became obsolete or too old, which needs to move into now recycling mode, right? It has to be brought back and it has to be done like that. Do you see, and I'm not saying that necessarily that Metro is doing it today, but do you see role of technology in the completing that cycle? Because on one side of the cycle, we have made it very efficient, very smart, and we are pushing more and more out. Can the same pipeline, or should the same pipeline not be used, using the same technologies to bring it all back to the complete circle?
So I will say that sustainability is not just good for the planet, it's also good for the business.
Right.
You're in wholesale business where costs really matter. You cannot be the best quality wholesaler and best cost or best price wholesaler unless you also have the lowest cost structure. Right? There is a saying in retail and wholesale that if there's a price war, the company which will win is the one which has the lowest cost structure.
Right.
So, we work towards reducing cost everywhere and all inefficiencies in the system where technology can make a big difference. Right. Also to say that if I look at the Dow Jones Sustainability Index globally, Metro for the last 5 years has been featuring amongst the top 3 companies worldwide. So we put a lot of emphasis on sustainability. Now coming to specifically in India. So one thing I'll say is about 80-85% of our business is food. And most of it is sourced locally. So, before the current government talked about local, we believe in food we have to buy locally, whether it's fruits, vegetables coming from farmers, as mutton or chicken, a lot of regional suppliers. So we do encourage a lot of local regional suppliers.
Right.
I will say if I look at the split of business between the national brands and local regional brands, we probably will have a disproportionate share of local and regional brands in our stores. That also is good for business because a lot of the hotels, a lot of the kiranas want those local regional brands, right? So that's one thing that we do. Second thing that we do is in terms of packaging. From day one, the day we set up our stores in India, we don't provide any packaging to our customers, right? So if you have come to a Metro store, you see that the product is in the trolley. There's no packaging being given. We use the cardboard boxes which come to us from our suppliers for packing the products into which cartons. The cardboard boxes are given to the customers where they can pack the product and take them home and they can then recycle them. We have always promoted this from day one, even before people became sensitive about sustainability. The other thing is even in things like mutton, fish, chicken, where you need plastic, we have banned all those products. So we use biodegradable products. We end up paying a premium for it, but all our packaging in the store is biodegradable, whether it's in fish, meat area, or even, we sell a lot of loose staples, rice, pulses, spices. It's all biodegradable packaging. In fact, for pulses and rice, etc., commodities, we use paper bags. That puts a constraint because the weight of these bags, they cannot take more than 1 kg of weight. But we believe that's the right thing to do. Right. So I think when you eliminate plastic packaging, you eliminate all packaging, you're bringing down costs for your customers. In wholesale, when you're dealing with kiranas and hotels, they don't want to pay for anything which doesn't add value to their business. So it's also good for business. And second is by promoting the local communities in food. You are doing, you're minimizing the carbon footprint. You are doing things which are good for the local communities, providing local employment. So we believe in that. And one more thing that we do is traceability. So it's possible for in a lot of products, it's not across all the product categories, If you buy something in metro, you know the source of origin of that product, especially in the fresh areas. In China, actually, it was a big differentiator for us. In India, it's a bit more difficult to do across categories, but wherever we can, we try to tell people where this product has come from, which farm, which farmer, etc. So it's all about promoting the local communities.
Right. Absolutely. No, you're right. Absolutely right about that. Good for planet, good for business. We must understand that. That makes it even more attractive to go after. And I think we are all commercial people here. So, and there's no embarrassment about that either.
And even I think we have told our suppliers that why do you invest so much of money in packaging?
Right, absolutely.
Remove that packaging and give it to for better prices.
Yeah, true.
Lower cost.
Right. Thanks, Arvind. Milan, so what do you say? What do you say about that? Any projects you have done for anybody on this part?
I think we have a little bit of a different take here as a company. I think we are creating digital workers. So we are saying that we should not have a whole lot of human worker where possible, and try and create a digital worker, which is one extreme notion. But I think the one aspect has been that on technology, because we are a technology company, is to minimize the hardware and because there's a lot of utilization waste which happens, and use cloud. So we incidentally, AWS is our biggest partner, and then other cloud companies are biggest partner. So companies which are using technology for a very specific purpose, a lesser utilization, you are essentially creating high energy usage and all of that. And then, instead of that, move straight to cloud. Obviously, cloud is a larger issue around how do you manage energy and all of that, but they at least are monitored from a usage sustainability point of view. In a company, you have this huge data center which is lying somewhere 24/7 on. No one knows what happens. So I think we're just pushing our customers that move to cloud, minimize your minimize your cost of infrastructure, and bring digital workers, minimize the floor space. I think one of the ideas we've been promoting is why do we need massive offices across the world for service industry? I'm not talking about retail industry. You could really do work from home, and you could do a digital worker based model. So it's a little bit of a different take, but we are from a different industry. So that's my perspective.
No, I think your take is absolutely in line with what I've been thinking, because anything which is consuming energy, right, which can be done by consuming less energy, right, I think it's a step in the right direction, right? And yes, there are privacy issues, yes, there are security issues. All these need to be addressed, but must be considered, because lots of people, I know of companies where they just don't consider cloud. So I would have never thought of it, that they are not being environment friendly when they are not thinking of. So gentlemen, with this, we come to the end of our panel discussion. If I could take just 30 seconds to summarize that. So we started talking about the role of technology in the retail industry, in the ecosystem, one end on the consumption side of it, and we ended at the side of the sustainability. And I think lots of stuff in between. And I think I have learned a few new things today from you guys when you were sharing your experience and your point. That was the whole idea of putting all of us together. Thanks to Economic Times for doing that. And I hope that feeling is mutual in your minds as well, that it's been worth your while and worth your time. And thanks again for your valuable time and joining the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.